Welcome back from a long, hot summer. We are pleased to kick off our next season of Environmental History Worth Reading video series. Of course, for those of you who read the website, you know that Environmental History Worth Reading didn't stop. It kept going with a set of 5 to 6 links for relevant text, audio, or video related to environmental history that appeared on the internet somewhere over the past month, picked by our very own Jessica DeWitt. I'm Sean Courage, an editor here at niche-canada.org, and of course, I'm joined by Jessica.
I'm Jessica DeWitt, the niche social media editor.
Jessica, you've got another lineup here of great picks spanning Canadian history, U.S. history, European history, and more. We start with a piece on the Rideau Canal in the Globe and Mail.
Yes, so this is another one of their articles about Canadian rivers, and it's a really excellent series, so I suggest checking all of them out. And this one is on the Rideau Canal, as you pointed out, and it starts with some folk tales about that surround the river and the canal, and how some of it is obviously based in truth and some of it is not. And then it talks about how the canal was a major engineering feat of the 19th century, how it's now an UNESCO World Heritage Site, and discusses stuff like the way that workers died of malaria while building it, how it was central to the British Empire, North America, etc. So just a really great piece that traces the river through time. So I recommend checking it out.
Yeah, it's a cool example of environmental history reaching a broader audience and maybe a signal of an interest in the general readership in environmental history. I know this is Roy McGregor who's been writing these. He also did one on the Don River earlier in the summer that featured Niche's own Jennifer Bennell.
Yes.
Your second pick from last month is from the Inhabiting the Anthropocene blog, the French Lake Dam Fish Ladder and the Temporality of Usefulness.
Yes, this is a great think piece that I really enjoyed. So it starts off describing a tall spiral construction in southwestern Oklahoma at the French Lake Dam. And apparently this is a fish ladder that was meant to enable particularly salmon to get over the dam and swim upstream. But as the author points out, the catch is that salmon are not native to Oklahoma, nor have they ever been introduced or thought of being introduced. So they open up with that example to talk about how architectural follies and other monuments to humans as planetary forces, as they call it, connect to the Anthropocene. And then they look at how you can use art historical investigation and theory to analyze these things. And I just thought it was an interesting crossover of disciplines and something worth reading as a way of looking at things I haven't thought about. So
This is something you've been flagging in your picks for several months now.
yeah.
More writing about the Anthropocene as a concept for organizing our thinking about environmental history. And of course, that's really started to pick up most recently. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more of this over the year. We've got a new episode of Exploring Environmental History, Jan Oosthoek's long-running environmental history podcast. This one on the Nature Scenery Act of the Netherlands, episode 73.
Yes, I really like this episode, and it plays well with the first two. This is the third one that kind of looks at human engineering of the environment. And he and the interviewee talk about how the Netherlands is a special case because the entire environment of the country is basically the result of human intervention. It's below sea level, completely reliant on dams and dikes to keep it dry, and that this really problematizes how to protect wilderness, or
Right.
if wilderness actually exists. So they look at the Nature Scenery Act as an example of how the Netherlands dealt with things differently and how it was used to save country houses set in park-like settings. And then in the interview, they talk about how that compares to America and Canada. So really great episode.
Hmm.
I liked it.
And a good reminder for viewers that this podcast has been going since 2006. You can see the archive here on the right hand side of its website. And it's a global podcast, covers topics that span the world. So definitely worth subscribing and listening to that one.
Yes.
Over here on Backlist, we've got this is a documentary miniseries, sorry, a discussion about American histories of American national parks, which opens with a discussion of Ken Burns' miniseries on America's Best Idea.
Yes, so the internet was engulfed by the National Park Service 100th anniversary this past month. So there are probably thousands of articles circulating, I feel like. And a lot of them were book lists that recommended readings on the history of national parks. And a lot of them were lacking,
Hmm.
particularly if you're coming from an environmental history background. And this is one of my favorite ones by Amy Cohote, and just kind of focuses on some more controversial aspects of national park history. And I just think it's a good list. I particularly recommend Carolyn Finney's book, Black Faces, White Spaces. So check that out. Yeah.
Well, continuing with that national parks theme, you've pulled an article here from Business Insider UK: 6 ways America's national parks have dramatically shaped the history of science.
Yes. I like this article because it was coming from a different angle than a lot of the articles I was seeing. A lot of it was the same thing over and over, reiterated, John Muir, blah, blah, blah. But so this is something different. And so rarely talk about the educational and scientific aims of the National Park Service. So this article looks at national parks as living laboratories and then gives, I believe, 6 examples of how scientists have made revolutionary finds doing research in national parks. Such as Yellowstone, they found a certain bacteria that led to more DNA research. Indiana Dunes was pivotal in discovering the idea of ecological succession, and there are several other examples, so I thought that was a fun article.
Yeah, it's like another way of thinking about national parks history that maybe, environmental historians, I'm sure, have thought
Yeah.
about it this way, but for a broader audience to think about these parks in a new way. Well, that's your 5 picks, but you've given us a
Yeah.
bonus this month. We've got a video down at the bottom of the page for your picks for August 2016. Grand Canyon, 1958.
Yeah, it's a Disney film. It's kind of like Fantasia, but with Grand Canyon scenery and really great scenery and lots of wildlife footage. I just thought it was fun, and I'd never heard of it before, so I thought I'd add it to the end of the list.
And we'll see how long it stays up on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, if you are interested in any of Jessica's picks this month, you can head on over to niche-canada.org, where you can find each month Environmental History Worth Reading, our ongoing series of picks for what's best to read, listen to, and watch on the internet for environmental history. Jessica, thanks as always.
Thank you, Sean.